Hello and welcome to White Hat Riddles. I'm Angel.
And I'm Krasi.
And today we're going to talk about Cloudflare and the effects of AI in modern cybersecurity. Krasi, what do you think about what happened a couple of days ago with Cloudflare?
So a lot of people text me because they think this is a cyber attack. This is not a cyber attack. I would like to share quickly what Cloudflare stands for. Because a lot of people, they don't realize what Cloudflare is. Now, that's a third-party solution which is protecting you mostly from denial of service attacks, distributed denial of service attacks, as well as application-related attacks. You can go with the community version. You can go for the paid version. It provides more features, better protection, of course. But at the end of the day, Cloudflare is a solution which protects the organizations, the applications from malicious denial of service attacks. Now, why is this important? Most of the world nowadays is using Cloudflare as a main provider for DDoS protection. What this means is that all the applications out there which are behind Cloudflare are dependent on Cloudflare. So if something goes wrong with Cloudflare, it's a typical example of third-party or supply chain risk. Not a cyber attack again, but a supply chain risk. So if I'm using a supplier to give me some services or a product which is helping my application to be delivered to my users, then if this application goes down, my application goes down. Now, I think you know more what happened in this particular case. You were the one to analyze. So would you please share with us?
100%, yeah. So just to make everything clear, right? The main original purpose of Cloudflare was indeed protection from DDoS attacks, but one of the other core services is the so-called CDN, which is a content distribution network. Now, the issue with this is obviously it's a large distribution network. I think they have over 330 data centers around the world. And for the people who are not so accustomed to using Cloudflare, this essentially helps you faster deliver content. They cache the content, you can send it to your users faster, and therefore you can improve the reliability of your web service. For large-scale applications, obviously this is paramount. You know, if you imagine you're using some form of a fintech application, you're looking for crypto prices or looking at an NVIDIA stock or something like this, it is not reasonable to think that this service can be delivered to every single device at the same time, right? They use some form of distribution. Now, the issue comes with this, that this creates a bottleneck, right? And this was the main issue here, that one configuration file that wasn't properly configured and basically went so-called out of bounds because the size of the file was not big enough at the time, and therefore it broke everything afterwards. So everything after the file overflown, something like this, it's gone. You can no longer properly send IPs where they need to go, and therefore you can no longer receive the content. Now, Krasi?
Well, I think that this could have been prevented based on what I hear if they had some proper procedures in place to analyze the deployed code, right?
It's not the first time. I think they had a similar problem last year, but not on this scale. So there will be some form of misconceptions when you read online because the system is automatic, you know, obviously with files and creation of files is automated to an extent. You know, they have some form of a bot configuration network on Cloudflare, and this is using machine learning to create the best routes. This cannot be done physically. At this scale, we cannot think that AI is the problem, right? AI is not the problem for this one. The problem is that when you create a single point of failure, as in this case, one file, these things might happen and you need to avoid this. I think this is the core problem. It's more of a business process problem rather than technical problem. You can never have 100% reliability, you know. In cybersecurity, we're looking for the best possible solution, not the ultimate solution, because it's essentially impossible to create something completely unhackable, right?
Okay, but we're always referring to check your vendors, check your third-party suppliers. So what could have been checked in that case? You know, I'm making some due diligence. I'm after DDoS protection for my organization. I'm researching 5 or 10 different solutions. I'm asking them how they, what's their internal procedures to deploy software code, what's their business continuity practices, what's their disaster recovery scenarios. Like, I can ask whether they're going to give me information or not, that's a different topic. But I can ask, I can try to research. If I'm a user, I can try to research as much as possible about their ways, about their procedures. So what would be, would it resolve it? Would it help me if I would go to Cloudflare and ask for this?
So I think there's a couple of points of view here. We, as a cybersecurity company, we want to protect the business, right? And we have to use the so-called hyperscalers for different types of services. You know, we don't choose whether our clients or our partners use AWS, Azure, or Cloudflare in this case. From a business standpoint, at the time of incident like this, you cannot do anything. If your only provider is Cloudflare, at the moment of the incident, you can only wait. You don't have monitoring tools to give you any idea of what's happening. You just rely on the data, what they provide. And you know, the funny thing yesterday was down detector was down. So you don't even know what is down, just because this is obviously the main one. There's other services that you can see that are independent, which we'll highlight and show you this. But for me at least, the main thing that people should learn is that when you do business process planning for the year, you know, when you do executive reporting, you need to communicate this risk to the executives, and you need to create a strategy where you have auxiliary services, and when incidents like this, you can redirect your traffic through that. But here we come to the biggest problem with this. It's cost, because if you want to create a service to properly manage your your traffic both ways, or when you have an incident, you need to pay for it. So for me, I think there will be a niche of type of businesses that provide this type of thing based on bandwidth. I think this is a new market opportunity right now. And one of the other things that will become clear with time, with the rise of AI, we know AI is growing right now, people want to build their systems and so on. I believe AWS reported 30% increase in bandwidth in customer, let's call it cloud usage, because of AI, right? And with AI, and let's say OpenAI yesterday, ChatGPT was not working. And you can imagine how many businesses right now rely on their API, or how many people just use it every day in their everyday life. And this creates this opportunity for people to build this, I would call it a mesh or network of connected services from hyperscalers that can actually be distributed and be brand agnostic. This is what I think people should do. And also, some of the experts are starting to push more and more for going back on-prem for some of the services. I don't think that in this case, this would solve the problem, because you cannot have DNS resolution globally on-premise. It doesn't work like this. So this specific problem will not be solved, but you can divert some of the traffic at least, or hold some of the content distribution locally, at least to have an auxiliary service.
So the thing is, you can also go for one of their competitors. You can also use Incapsula, Akamai. There's like, I don't know, thousands of denial service providers out there, thousands of CDN providers as well. So the thing is, I think you need to have like a mixed topology, in a way that if one goes down, if one route goes down, you should be able to immediately switch to an alternative one. Now, there is an issue with this one. It's very hard. Let's say if I'm a small organization, I'm running one or two applications. Yeah, that's achievable. I can just switch to the other network, and I can like restore the connectivity in a matter of, I don't know, minutes, or let's say 1 or 2 hours. However, if you're a big provider and you're serving, if you're a big provider and you want to serve worldwide, you need to have a lot of different servers across the world, in Asia, in Europe, in America. How do you take care of this one? You know, you cannot just replicate everything and be able to switch in a matter of minutes. It doesn't work like that. So you need to reconfigure all the DNS records. You need to reconfigure all the application gateways. And when you have such a large network and synchronization between the different application servers across the world, then that's where you have the issue. And that's why you need to build your own business continuity planning. If this goes down, what's going on with me? What am I going to do? Like tomorrow, it might be something with your hosting provider. The server can go down. Then, or if you're using on-premise, again, your server can go down. Then you need to find an alternative. You need to have a backup solution, or let's say a standby server, which you can just power on, full replica of the production server, and you can use it in case something goes down. So I think that's why you should invest in business continuity planning. But you cannot protect from everything. There is always some potential risks. The biggest efforts, even you implement like a lot of solutions, you perform some due diligence, you check your vendors, still you have a risk, and you cannot minimize the risk always.
Yeah, one of the things that popped out in my mind the other day, when this happened, was something else as well. It's very complex, and I don't have a clear view on how the responsibility is split with these companies, right? I looked online, and it does seem that the law is so unclear that hyperscalers seem to be unscathed out of something like this, CrowdStrike, how many million people stuck on airports and so on. CrowdStrike still there. The guys are still getting paid in millions, but they disrupt businesses globally. So I think that needs to be a case made for how these things, if they are connected, and these people obviously are profiting. There is a line of people profiting from this, of course, for the services that they do. Whoever is profiting out of the business should also be responsible for when the business goes down. And I'll give you examples, even from our job. We need to create, for example, a new product page, or we need to communicate with clients. We need to deliver sales proposals, but we cannot use the design. We cannot download our proposals because they're on Figma, and Figma doesn't work. Who is responsible for this? Who is paying us for the loss of hours, for example? And let's say something else. As most of you probably know, now is the busiest time in cybersecurity, right? Well, yes, while this thing was happening, Qualys Scanner was not working because probably, I guess, they do some Cloudflare checking on the back end. Well, what if it's the end of the year? What do we have several days to submit? What happens with that client? What happens with the compliance and regulation and so on? So this type of cascading damage, I think, should be explored from government perspective. And I think if these companies cannot guarantee these types of things, they should split somehow. No one says that AWS should have 30 or Cloudflare should have 20% of the web traffic. This is not if they're not reliable, they shouldn't have
Sure, but that's an open market, right? So these are private companies. You accept the terms and conditions. I feel what you're saying.
Yeah,
I know.
Of course.
I know, but you are accepting the terms and conditions. You are agreeing to the SLAs, and then if something goes down, right now, Cloudflare, are they liable for this? Do they have to pay?
I think it's a very complicated matter. I wouldn't be able to speak legally for this. I don't want to say some things that's not right. From previous cases, it doesn't seem that there is liabilities measured in the damage done by something like this.
Surely there will be reputational damage.
Oh, yeah.
Or maybe it's going to be an advertisement for them. Who knows?
Yeah.
But the thing is, if I don't agree with their terms and conditions and what they deliver and what they promise to deliver, I can go to the next vendor. It's my personal choice. So I think if this becomes regulated, then it's not a free market anymore. If the government implies measures that you have to strictly provide this service level agreement, this uptime of your servers, and so on, I might not be able to deliver. I'm a small vendor, and then for this reason, my price is Oh, by the way, most of the Cloudflare users, they're using the community version. So you're not even paying for this,
Okay.
So if you pay for this, maybe you have different terms and conditions, different service level agreements. But I'm using something for free and I have expectations. I understand what you're saying. Yes, in ideal world, this would be the case. The government can imply some measures and they can regulate this and they can say, if you cannot provide this level of uptime of your services, you're not on the market. But I'm a small vendor. If I want to grow, maybe I will not be able to provide those in the beginning.
Yeah, but I didn't mean it in some form of a draconic regulation that stops you from working. Obviously that's not the case, and they do have 99.99% uptime. So you cannot have 100% reliability. I'm not claiming this, but at the same time, creating a system which you have, let's say, critical services depending on this, right? And let's say with AWS, that the problem that happened with the servers, you can say it's a free market, but it's not really a free market, because they have more than 30 or 40%. And once you're on AWS, how much does it cost to migrate out of AWS? Is this really free if you haven't provided the tools to, or don't have the capability to migrate? It's becoming very complicated. I don't want to sound like I don't want people to scale their businesses, because that's not the case. But I think there needs to be a case made for better incident response, and maybe for the largest companies of these, for them to be able to actually provide this type of auxiliary service, because you don't need to, let's say, if they combine with another company as partner up, they can rely on them, because you don't have access to the information. You wouldn't know that there is a problem with, how do you call this? You don't have the tools to analyze and understand what's happening in the back of AWS or Cloudflare. So you wouldn't be prepared. So I think there's something needs to be done. I don't know what exactly, but that's one of the things. And another very interesting point was what happens with media. Imagine the Cloudflare incident happens when there's elections, for example. What happens with distribution of information, because media websites use this? What happens in stuff like this? I saw all of the, let's say, Bulgarian media. Let's go out of the commercial. Let's forget about the money and so on. I think, let's say, all the Bulgarian newspapers and so on, and probably foreign ones, their websites were down, so therefore don't have clear way to find the information, and people start going to independent, for example, providers of information, whether it's Twitter, social media, or something like this. And then most people that don't have, let's say, a culture to disseminate proper information, to understand the information, they might become confused of what's real, what's not real. Is this a hack? Should I be protected, and so on? And in my view, media companies should also implement some form of the incident response, let's say incident communication response, because social media isn't likely to be down because they have their own infrastructure. Let's say X maybe is the only one that uses foreign infrastructure, third party, I mean. So maybe we can do some trainings for media people, how to communicate things like this, when the main source of information is down. What do you say? Do you use your personal accounts to share information? How do you address these things? I think there's a case to be made for this.
I completely agree with you. We can do something.
Yeah,
we can do something with the media, but also the public sector, the government institutions, healthcare facilities.
Oh, yeah.
What about them? Like schools, for example, they also rely on Cloudflare, right? Universities. There is a lot of public, public administration entities as well. They also depend on this kind of services to deliver the portal for the citizens, for example, where you go and you pay your taxes. Should be behind this kind of service as well.
Yeah.
So it's the scale is like huge. It extends to the point where people cannot even imagine what's the scale. It's huge. So yeah.
What happens with your domain, for example? Let's imagine just a very simple scenario. If Cloudflare is down, can you be under attack? Does your domain even resolve? I don't think so.
There is multiple different scenarios for this one as well. But if Cloudflare is down, it's a matter of configuration whether people can reach your web application or not. So if you configure it in a way that they can reach the web application, then you're exposing the real IP address, and then you can be under attack as well. Yes.
Would you? Then I wouldn't recommend it, because then you'll be zero protection.
Yeah, but otherwise you have zero usability. Users will not be able to visit your website. So again, put the things on a scale, and it's personal decision which one is better for you at this very point. At this very moment.
With these risk calculations.
Yeah.
Okay.
Angel, thank you very much for sharing about this one. I would suggest let's invite Martin and talk about attack surface management.
Yeah.
Exposure, smart risk calculation, and context-based security based on AI.
Very simple, yeah.
Very simple.
All right, we're going to have a special guest today. It's Martin Malinov, who is our product manager of Kikimora, and he's going to show some of the new things that we have planned up, some things coming up for the Kikimora product. It's very interesting. We have added some things which have been requested, a lot of integrations, and we think that let's call it agent-based, not vibe security. Let's call it agent-based security can help a lot of organizations speed up the process and help, especially with the lack of qualified personnel right now, which, as we see, will be required more and more and more with this interconnected